Hello, friends. I am Chevee. Welcome to my shed. How are you today? How's life in your world? How's things where you are? I hope it's fantastic. Everything here is great. I've been having this topic on my head for weeks now, maybe even a month or more, and I just keep forgetting to mention it, and that is feeling out of place. Um, I'm sure you've seen it now. I'm a pretty casual dresser. Even when I wore dress shirts every day for years and years and years, I was still a casual dresser. I dressed in jeans and a dress shirt and typically boots of some kind that sort of looked like um, dress shoes when my boots were down. So I've always been a casual dresser, and I have always loathed having to put on a suit or even just a polo shirt. I think polo shirts are like gross. They're like the most disgusting thing you could wear. They're like, I'm a businessman, but I'm not important enough to wear business casual or a business outfit, so I'm going to wear this t-shirt with buttons. Anyway, that's just personal take. Um, we went to a uh, graduation party for one of M's relatives, and I put on a dress shirt and pants and dress shoes, and it just makes me feel so uncomfortable and so out of my element. And when I go to things like that, this was at a private school, and so all of the people there were dressed up. And you could just tell, like, when I go to a thing like that, I see people my age who, their clothes, their dress clothes are like broken in. They've been used. And they look completely comfortable and at ease in those clothes. And I feel completely uncomfortable and not at ease because I've put these clothes on twice in the last 10 years or something. And it's just so far out of my element that it feels weird. And I wonder, so I've wondered, so this is all tying back to this thought that I've had, is like how many of those people who I assume are just perfectly comfortable in their business casual or in their business clothing. How many of those people are actually just as uncomfortable as I am, but you know, they don't show it on the outside. I'm positive I don't necessarily show it on the outside when I'm wearing those things, but I hate wearing those things. It makes me feel just wrong and like I don't know, just out of place. So I thought about that while I was at that thing at that graduation, but I've also thought about that in a whole slew of other things. Like, how many times do you go through life and see somebody in their element or what you assume is their element, only to find out or only to wonder if they see you as just as comfortable as they are in that element, even though you're both completely uncomfortable with it or both, whatever. How often does that happen? How often do you find yourself in that position? I'm curious about it because I know that over the past month and a half or whatever since that graduation, I have had other things that have triggered that thought. Like, oh, I bet this is the same situation where I feel completely out of place, but everybody else looks completely. But I don't remember. Like I've had the thought and it's left my mind and I've forgotten to talk about it. So I guess just specifically like putting on dress clothes of any kind, business casual or higher, do you feel comfortable in that? Is that like your default? Those guys who like all they wear is business socks and penny loafers and dress slacks. That's like their whole wardrobe. Like, is that? I mean, I am assuming that that's what they're comfortable in because that's what they always wear. But is it true? Maybe they're just that's what they feel like they have to wear as opposed to what they want to wear. I've always been a wear what I want to wear, except for when I had to wear uniforms, like, it's various jobs, like being a mechanic or whatever. I have always been, I've never followed trends. I just wear my own stuff hockey jerseys, soccer shirts, jeans, whatever. I've always just been my own person. Um, and I'm most comfortable when I can wear the clothing that I choose to wear. I guess what I'm saying is I wouldn't choose to dress that way, like penny loafers on a regular basis. Today, we do have a question from Chris, and this one is a little bit, I don't know, divisive, probably. Let's see.
Hey friend, how are you? I forgot to call you today on my drive in with my question of the day, so looks like there won't be one for today's episode, but for tomorrow.
That's today. Today is tomorrow for him.
You were at Dice Tower East.
I was.
You've had COVID
Mm-hmm.
a couple times. Do you think it was a wise option for everyone to be packed into a hotel conference room, not wearing a mask? thoughts, talk amongst yourselves. Until next time.
Do I think it was a wise option? I think wise is a weird word there. I think it was a calculated risk. And I think that everybody in that room made the same calculated risk. Of everybody that I attended Dice Tower East with, I've heard of one case of COVID. Conversely, I heard of at least 15 to 20 people that I interacted with at Origins contracting COVID. Was it wise? I don't know. That's a hard word to say, but it was a calculated decision, and I don't feel like anybody in that room did anything egregious just because they weren't wearing masks. I know that we would all like for this thing to go away, but the reality of it is it never is. It's with us for the rest of our lives. We're going to have it a bunch of times. Yes, if we all locked ourselves in our houses for 2 weeks, we could eradicate it completely. But that would take a global effort, and it's quite frankly unfeasible. And it is such a much more contagious strain of the virus that it would just, take over the world again and spread like it did the first time. And we'd be back at it again, and then we'd all go in our houses. So it's very unrealistic to think that this thing is going anywhere. What I can tell you is hospitalization rates are way, 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 way down. This current strain that's, it's just, it's not nearly as concerning as previously. Is it still concerning? Yes. I'm not dismissing it as saying just go out and do what you want to do. But I am saying that it was a calculated risk, and I don't see any harm in that. I have been maskless now for months and months. I mean, masks went away here last year. Masks went away here at the beginning of the pandemic. That's not true, but it basically was. You would see people everywhere without them unless a establishment really enforced it. And again, this is a divisive topic. I think at this point you have to decide that society is going to move on, and there's not a whole lot you can do about it. Most people have either had it or are okay with getting it, and are willing to accept that risk. And I am one of those people. I'm willing to accept the risk. There's currently nobody in my immediate life that would be threatened. If I were to contract it, I would stay away from anybody who might, like my parents. I would stay, I would follow the guidelines, do the quarantine. I would wear the mask if I had the virus, that sort of stuff. And I would hope that others would too, but they're not going to. Just as people would go to work sick with the flu, people are going to go to work sick with COVID. People are going to go to Walmart sick with COVID. People are going to go to concerts sick with COVID. It's not literally any different than any other virus that you've had in your life. And unfortunately, that's where we are. And I don't know. I think it's a calculated risk. You're either willing to take it or you're not. If you're not willing to take it, okay, that's your choice. I'm not going to bemoan anybody who wants to stay at home or who wants to wear a mask or who would ask me to wear a mask. If I was in a public space like Dice Tower East, and somebody said, "Hey, I'm immunocompromised, would you put a mask on?" Absolutely, no problem. That's not an issue at all. I had zero of those interactions. In fact, I had people asking. I saw people at the demo table saying, because somebody would sit down with the mask on, they would say, "Oh, do you want me to put my mask on?" And the other person wearing the mask would be like, "No, that's okay." I heard that multiple times, actually, which was pretty encouraging. So I think at this point, the fear is no longer as trumping the symptoms, right? People are less afraid of it, and that's okay too. I accept that, right? It's a tough one, I don't want my loved ones to get sick of any kind of sickness, the flu or the cold or anything. Ear infections. My kid has had ear infections from COVID twice already this year. And her doctor told us that that's been very common. People who have had COVID recently have developed ear infections. But I think that, unfortunately, we just have to accept this thing as part of our lives, and society has moved on, and I'm not going to let the fear run my life. I ride a motorcycle. That is way more dangerous to me, in my head, or at least, than COVID. Anyway, sorry to end on that news. That was a downer. Feel free to tell me I'm an idiot in the comments. I don't mind. Thank you for being here as always. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, being amazing friends and wonderful people. I really appreciate you. And I'll see you again tomorrow. Today's word you should know to sound smart is monistic. It is a noun meaning the idea that everything, including philosophy, religion, and mysticism, can be reduced to a single substance or explained by a single principle. Of course, we believe the world is monistic. Wealth is the source of everything in the universe. Monistic. MONISTIC. So that means like the force is a monistic ideology.